Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel again. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about my 20s as I'm very quickly approaching the big 30. Yeah, I know. And I just wanted to share some of my sort of thoughts, my sort of lessons, really, some of the things I've learned over the last nearly 10 years. So, as you can probably hear, there is a little bit of noise going on outside. The house to the left is having some construction, and you might also be able to hear the sound of the planes passing over, so I apologise for that. Hopefully this video will go out, because this is this 5th attempt now. If it might be actually be in 2 parts, so if that's the case, then that's what it will just have to be. But I'm hoping it'll just be one video, but we'll see how it goes. So my 20s have been a long road, have been a long journey, lots of mistakes, but lots of opportunities, lots of things have come and gone, friends, just lots of things that I thought would still be around now have unfortunately gone, and that includes people that have passed away as well. Pets, of course, but mostly friends that have gone through the natural process of time, really. Things change, people move on, people change, people's lives change for all sorts of different factors. And also I've moved on as well. I certainly am not the same. Well, not fully. I'm not fully the same person I was when I was 20, and certainly not when I was at school. With the last years at school, I've changed beyond, or probably all recognition, to the people that knew me then. Not 100%. I mean, I'm still me, obviously. But a lot of things have changed, and I've experienced a lot of life, so obviously I've become a little bit more mature over the years. I've had to learn some pretty hard lessons over the last 15 years, nearly 15 years since I left school. Well, no, it's not far off it. So my 20s have been a time of great opportunity, great chances to travel, to learn things, to try new things, to try different jobs, even try a career, which I'm still doing now, although it wasn't meant to be a career, and I'm not still fully sure if it's something I really want to do, but we'll see how that pans out. But my early 20s, let's talk about my early 20s. My early 20s were sort of a little bit crazy, a little bit wild, as probably most people's early 20s were, or are going to be. Lots of sort of very stupid things, things that I sort of cringe at now. Just a lot of somewhat dangerous things, perhaps in some ways as well. Just very ill thought out decisions, spur of the moment type of things. Probably more alcohol than I should have probably consumed, but that's part of being young, I guess. But I recommend that everybody to have that period, and I think it's, I don't really think it's something you can resist, really. I think it's a sort of part of being a young adult, is that I think it's that thing of waiting for so long to be an adult, and then when you finally get to it, it's sort of this release for a couple of years of, I'm finally an adult. I'm trying to sort of like strut my stuff and show the world and show my family and show everybody else that I'm finally an adult now. I can do whatever I want. Sort of like a bit of a rebellious sort of streak, really. I mean, it's very sort of, it's very childish, really. It's very it's a naive period. But it's free. In some ways, it's a lot of freedom in your early 20s. Well, that's in mine, there certainly was. I made a lot of mistakes, and there's no denying that. I've certainly did things that I wouldn't do now as a 29-year-old. But saying that, perhaps when I'm 39, I might make another video talking about some of the things I did when I was 29 or in my late 20s, and probably cringe at when I get to that point, perhaps. Who knows, really. But my early 20s were full of irresponsibility. There wasn't really any planning. I didn't really have a plan. I was just plodding along, really, just sort of seeing where the wind took me. And that's okay, I suppose, when you're in your early 20s. But when you get towards your mid 20s, that sort of doesn't. It stops being fun, and it becomes an inconvenience. I think by the time you're in your mid 20s, you should have your career pretty much in check. You should have your education sorted. You should have your career in line, or certainly be very, very swiftly heading towards one. Now that I'm approaching 30, I certainly wish I had done those things a lot sooner, but hopefully I've got a bit longer to live yet, and I'll be able to achieve those things. Apologies for all the noise around that's going on. There's not really much I can do about it. We have 2 dogs. As me and my girlfriend here. We have two dogs. Well, she has 2 dogs that we take care of, and one of them doesn't like strangers, so she's always yapping away. Apologies for that. So yeah, my early 20s were great. They were fun. There was a lot of excitement. There was a lot of freshness there. It was exciting to be an adult and finally be able to go out and just feel like you was sort of important or something like this. Feel like you was going somewhere, even though in the back of your mind you knew you really wasn't. Well, I certainly wasn't. But in terms of like socialising and stuff like that, that was flowering, which is certainly not something that really was fully there in my teenage years, and certainly not my late teenage. Well, depending on what you class as your late teens. Certainly not when I was 18, 19. It was really only when I was about 21 that I started really socialising, in terms of going out and drinking and partying, all that kind of stuff, clubbing and stuff. So when I was 23, I decided, my uncle wanted me to go to Australia, and he paid for the ticket, so I was very lucky. So I got my first chance to travel, and that was a very, very interesting and eye-opening and inspiring in some ways experience. I honestly never thought I would ever leave the United Kingdom. I was just very insecure then, and I didn't really want to travel in my early 20s, my very early 20s. But that opportunity came along and I took it, and I'm glad I did, and I don't have any regrets about that at all. And then I went back to England, got depressed, got bored, got sort of stuck in a rut, as it were. I sort of just ended up back into the same cycle again that I had before I went to Australia, and just cycles of unemployment, cycles of just crap jobs, really. I just hated my life, really. And then when I was 24, late 2014, I got another job as a porter. So I was travelling around the UK, sort of assembling furniture, and all, it really wasn't. It's not as exciting as it sounds. The company's now being liquidated, thankfully, because it was corrupt, and there certainly wasn't following health and safety procedures. Was you, Kingstown Furniture? So that all went to crap. That all fell apart, and to be fair, I wasn't good at the job. I was very, very incompetent. I'll just be honest with you. But I also hated the job, so that didn't help as well. I love the fact that I got to travel. I mean, that was great. That was good to see some different parts of the United Kingdom. I got to see Scotland for the first time. I got to see Wales. I got to see parts of England that I hadn't been to. So, and England's a beautiful country, and I'm glad that I got to do that. So, as much as I have regrets in life, there's some parts of some experiences that I don't regret. It's only some elements of certain things that I regret, really. Because I knew I could have done something. I knew I could have done better. I don't regret that I did something bad necessarily, or well, not bad, but I don't regret being naive because I learned something from. But I just wish that I had thought more about some of the things that I did, really. But hindsight is a wonderful thing, as they say. But then again, it can be an inconvenience as well, because it's nice to be able to reflect on things, but what's the point? I mean, if you can't change it, what's the point of being even be able to, I mean, yes, you can obviously learn things from looking back and having a new, fresh approach to something that you haven't thought about for a long time, or you was naive or stubborn about whilst you was in that situation, whatever. But so hindsight is something that I have a lot now in my late 20s, and also I have a lot of reflection on my childhood now and my teenage years and my early to mid 20s. I miss my childhood a lot, and I don't know if that's just something that happens when you get to your late 20s, but I've just started to reflect back on my childhood a lot more recently. I very, very much miss that period of time. It's sort of a bit of a depressive period, really, in some ways. I'm going to come on to that in a moment. So in my mid 20s, I decided to, after everything went sour with one of the old company, the company that I used to work for, I got sacked basically. I had some money saved, and my ex at the time, Monique, who I'm still very good, I like to think I'm very good friends with. She's a great woman. She's been there for me in lots of ways. She was very much a source of inspiration. She decided that not decided, but she suggested that maybe I should try to go to Asia and to travel to Vietnam and maybe to Thailand and maybe some other places. So eventually I made that decision to do it. So I didn't really see anything sort of panning out long term from it. And unfortunately, that relationship fell apart over time, and that was partly my own fault. But that's relevant because I'm in a very good relationship now. I very much love my partner that I'm with now, but I'm glad that we're still able to be friends. And I think that if you can do that with an ex-partner, then I think that's useful. If it's positive, if it's healthy, I think it's nice to be able. It's really nice to be able to do that. But I understand that that's obviously not the case for a lot of people in a lot of situations, with relationships being messy when things come to an end, unfortunately. But that's life, and things do change, and probably in another 5-10 years I might be in another relationship, or I might have been in another 2 or 3. I don't know. I have no idea what's coming down the road. I hope that I'll still be with my partner that I'm with now, but in some ways perhaps, I don't know, because it's easy to say I'd like to be in the same relationship 10 years from now, but we change, and life changes us beyond all recognition sometimes, and we'll see what happens. But my mid-20s were great because there was a lot of new experiences, a lot of travelling. I really did learn a lot in my very mid-20s, and certainly now approaching 30, I've learned. I'd say that my most educational years in my 20s were probably from the ages of about 25 to now. My early 20s were more just sort of playful and just sort of carefree, really, if I'm honest. And as one of my uncle's friends said, and he's right, I was very much carefree, and I didn't take any real responsibility for my own life, and I regret that now, and wish I had done things faster, and certainly wish I had got an education and a career sorted out a lot quicker. But in some ways that it didn't work out. It wasn't going to work out because I just didn't have the money to do that, and I probably could have done, but if I'd have tried harder. So I don't know. It's hard to say. It's easy to look back and say what if, and I should have done that. But looking back, it wasn't. I don't think I could have done much better, really. Not unless I'd have took out some huge loans and things, which I'd have probably been still paying off now. But perhaps that would have been a good thing. I don't know. Sometimes it's better just not to think about things, because you can stress yourself out and depress yourself. So my mid-20s were great. There was a lot of wisdom that came out from about the ages of 25, 26. I started being creative as well. Started to sort of write poetry again. Started to write. When I went to China, I did some improvisations on a piano there at one of the places I worked at, which I listen to occasionally, and I think, wow, where did that come from? But maybe it's just a combination of different things in my mind that I don't know. But sometimes I've did things in my mid-20s now that I think, wow, how did I do that? Why did I do that? So my mid-20s were great, because I felt like I was becoming. I didn't really feel like I didn't really feel like and people certainly didn't treat me like an adult, and rightfully so, in my early 20s. And it was only really when I got to my mid-20s, when I started to take a little bit of responsibility for my own life, my own decisions, that people started to have a bit more respect for me, a bit more, just started to notice me more as an adult, and I think that was right. That is right. And like Russell Kane talks, I watched one of his videos the other day where he was talking about being a father and fatherhood and adulthood, and I think he's right when he says that it's only when you have a child that there's no biological attachment that you suddenly become a man. But I don't think that's the only thing that makes you a man. But I certainly think I understand what he was saying in regards of responsibility, and I think it's only when you fully understand responsibility that you become not a man, but you become obviously a responsible adult, somebody that takes charge and is in control of his or her own life. And I think that's important, and I think that's one of the major things that I've learnt from my mid-20s to now, is to finally say, look, this is your life now, David. You're nearly 30. You know, you've got 10, 20, 30 years maybe to sort your life out to some extent, and if you don't do it within that time, your life's fucked, and you're going to be reaching old age with nothing in your pension pot, nothing in the bank, and it's just time to take responsibility. It's time to just say, you know, that period's gone, that childhood, all that element's gone, that the teenage part of you's gone, the early adulthood part of you's gone. It's time to move on now. It's time to, and I think that's also something that takes. It's hard to comprehend at first, but it's important to know when to move on. It's important to know when to change things. These are some of the things I've learned over the last couple of years, is to just, in many ways, in many situations, let people be who they are. Sometimes it's not worth the hassle to try to change people, because you can't. In a lot of instances, you can't. You've got to. The only way that you can really understand yourself to any degree is to completely throw yourself out of your comfort zone as much as you possibly can. And that's why I think a lot of people don't grow, don't learn, because they're too comfortable. And I think that's the problem in the Western part of the world, is we've become too comfortable. And it's great that we have some of the best education and resources, but it's too comfortable, and that's why people like to go to the opposite side of the world sometimes, to sort of break free of all that. So some of the most important things I've learned in my 20s are to just to keep pushing yourself. One of the most important is to keep fit. First of all, that will really help your mind. Is to have as best a diet as you possibly can give yourself. To drink plenty of water. To keep yourself active, keep yourself fit, because that will help your mental capacity in many ways. It's important to keep studying, to keep learning new things, to keep your brain active, because it is a muscle. It's important to reflect, but not to dwell too much on the past, because the past is gone, it's finished, it's history, that's it. It's not coming back, you're not going to change it. It's great to look back, it's great to have videos, photos, sound, whatever, to be, and that's a wonderful thing about living in the last couple of decades, that we've got the records there now, we've got things we can look back on, we can see ourselves when we was younger, and I'll 50 years from now, if this video is still on, I'll be able to look back at this and see myself at 29 years old, and probably cringe at this, perhaps, I don't know, but for me, I've learned a lot about my family as well, and I didn't really fully understand my family until the last couple of years. I didn't even really properly understand even myself until probably about 2 years, 3 years ago, and I'm learning all the time, learning new things, I'm trying new things, I'm trying to try new things. It's just a constant, it's like a flower, it's like your life is very much like a flower. You've got to keep it healthy, you've got to give it the right food, you've got to make sure it's in the right environment to grow fully, and I think that for me is the best analogy for me, really. Just to keep growing, just to look back on the past sometimes, yeah, there's nothing wrong in that, but don't dwell on it, because the more you dwell on it, the more you'll want it, and there's no point in going back. You've done that, you've been there. Yes, it would be nice to go back sometimes to experience things again, to have some conversations, or to have some friendships again, but it's gone, it's finished, it's that's it. It's just, you've got to keep looking forward, you've got to just move on, and new things will come about, new experiences, new people will come into your life eventually at some point, and maybe they'll leave again, but then something will come along again. So it's just constant change, and to finish off, that's the thing that for me at least, is it's exciting. It's somewhat hard to deal with sometimes, because you get comfortable, and we are creatures of comfort and habit, and we like that comfort. We like to have the same things, a familiar environment, familiar people, familiar habits, but it doesn't do you any. It doesn't do anything positive for you in the long run. We all need some level of sustainability. There's no point things changing beyond our ability to understand it, but we do need to change. We will anyway. It's just one of the things. I mean, if you want to, you will. And certainly if you're like me and you're looking for new experiences, and you want to try new things, and you want to grow and live a life that's exciting, and not look back with too many regrets, and then change is part of that process. And that's so my 20s have been a huge chapter, an important one. But overall, it was fun. It was exciting, and I don't really have too many regrets. Not true regrets. I certainly think sometimes I wish I had done some things a little bit different, of course. But I'm sure I will say that about every decade. And I did things in my childhood, or didn't do things in my childhood, that I wish I had or hadn't done. And then in my teenage years, I wish I'd have tried harder at school. But at the end of the day, to some extent, it doesn't matter, because if you want to do something, you will do it. And going into my 30s, I'm excited. I'm a little bit worried about it, but overall, I'm quite happy to have got this far, to have lived this long so far. And I welcome my 30s, really, and we'll see what my 30s bring. I might do another I might do a part 2 to this, or I might do another video about my 20s in a couple of days. But for now, that's it really. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope maybe you've been able to maybe you're in your 30s or 40s or older, or maybe you're not even in your 20s yet, and maybe you might be able to learn something from this. So yeah, so thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much. Bye bye.